our objective is to get the frameworks in place so that every financial decision can take climate change into account, just like they take interest rates or credit risk or future cash flows or other factors into account, but they can take climate change as one of the fundamental drivers of risk and value for companies and assets around the world. And of course, that starts with reporting. It's based off of reporting. It extends through to risk management and stress tests and scenario analysis for risk purposes, not just opportunity purposes, but for risk purposes. And it will extend ultimately, we think, to, and ultimately being in short order, to the expectations for the providers of capital, how they will report, whether it's financed emissions, for example. We see now with a number of banks beginning to make commitments on that, or pools of capital, members of the Net Zero Asset Owner Alliance who are reporting the portfolio warming characteristics of their portfolios. We think that it is going to mainstream to all pools of capital to provide a perspective on where their portfolios are with respect to the transition. Now, there's various ways that one can do that. Just simply reporting what proportion have TCFD-like disclosure. We'll come back to that. What proportion of the assets have transition plans, or more sophisticated measures that would look at portfolio warming. But that question needs to be answered, and all of it, of course, falls back onto the accounts, not just financial reporting, but sustainability reporting. I'm sure this has come up in your discussions. I know you've given a lot of thought to this, but this should be integrated reporting. Ideally, this is in one document, not separated into corporate sustainability reporting. And it's important that we move what has been tremendous progress, and I really do want to commend the private sector for the progress that's been made on the TCFD, on other initiatives, SASB, other initiatives, to move that from voluntary, increasingly sophisticated standards into on pathways to mandatory. And so to have that, and to have as much consistency as possible. And I'll just sort of end my remarks with telling you a few things that you know, but I want to reinforce them, which is for COP, we're working with a number of organizations to move from voluntary towards mandatory. The pathways include some jurisdictions will legislate or make it mandatory, such as New Zealand. Some are tying it to financing of programs such as Canada. Others are securities regulators looking at comply or explain disclosures such as the UK. Obviously, the financial reporting directive of the EU is crucial in this, and we're spending a lot of time with them to make sure, as you are, no doubt, that the sustainability side is based off of TCFD. And above all that is the current consultation of the IFRS Foundation and this broader initiative around sustainability reporting. As we recognize, I mean, like many of you over the years have worked on a variety of international initiatives. We want as much commonality as possible, but recognizing that there will be differentiated ways of moving that which has been voluntary into a mandatory framework. But we really want to get there, and that requires the best professional advice and application of it. Last point, since you led with it, I think or one of your first points, Jimmy, you know, scenario analysis and that forward-looking aspect is critical. It's in many respects, it's a new discipline. It's absolutely right. It is not a prediction. It's not a forecast, but and almost one thing you know with scenarios is exactly the scenario that's put out there. That's the one thing that won't happen with certainty, but it does show strategic resilience or fragility, strategic fragility to the different climate pathways. And one of the more interesting things and important things is that at present, in a number of sectors, there are a number of companies who have strategies that are inconsistent with what society is asking. What's the law of the land in the UK, for example, here in Canada, and 120 other countries to move to net zero by 2050. And it's showing how the strategy can adjust and thinking through how that would adjust and how investors, providers of capitals, other stakeholders can assess whether or not there is that robustness to a strategy. So it's the work you're doing, the thought you're putting into this, the techniques you're developing are absolutely critical. And I'll just end on reinforcing that last point, which is we do see a world of moving this into mandatory. There's the sort of mainstream channels to do that. As that's happening, the input of those at the it's a tough metaphor with climate, but those at the coalface, the accounting profession is absolutely essential. So with that, thank you for letting me come in late. I wanted to make sure I had a chance to at least weigh in with our support from COP for exactly what you're doing, and look forward to continuing the dialogue over the course of the next year.